Hi, this is my CI 443 scavenger hunt assignment, and I'm just going to start out answering the questions as I would if I were to write an essay about it. So the first question is how I would rate the overall condition of the social studies in my school and classroom. I was very happy with the social studies that I was able to see, so I would rank it a 4. I was in a 6th grade middle school, so I was the social studies class that I was able to observe was 6th grade ancient history with geography, and I felt that the classroom did a really nice job of the actual teaching in the classroom. The one thing that I felt that they could improve on was the resources that they had, especially like the books and different materials that they had in the classroom. I also gave a higher score because I felt that the school did a really good job of raising good citizens and incorporating social studies into their school. They did a lot of teaching on how to vote, so they did like different voting situations in the school, and they did different like food drives and clothing drives that were student organized. They recognized different leadership roles in the school, and I watched numerous classrooms participating in discussions and student-led discussions, as well as students being able to make their own choices, which I thought was very positive. The particular classroom that I was in had the physical layout was kind of good, but I thought that was the area that I thought a lot of improvement could be made on. They had a really great textbook that was new, and I looked at it pretty thoroughly, and I felt that the information wasn't very biased, and it represented many cultures, and I thought that it was really well written, so I was really satisfied with the textbook. They had maps and globes and timelines throughout the classroom. They had images of historical figures, books that take place in another country. Um, they did games and videos related to social studies, and the also instructional time. Even though it was in middle school, I was in a language arts room, and I saw the teacher using a lot of different resources that and teaching using a lot of social studies concepts, which I thought was really cool. For example, um, they read the book If the World Was a Village and there were 100 people in it. It like demonstrated kind of the inequality in the world, and just like how different people live very differently throughout the world. And my teacher did really good. The social studies classroom that I watched, the teacher and the students did a really good job of letting them discuss current events and having students debate and lead discussions. And I was able to watch student action projects trying to improve the school or community, which was, I felt, really beneficial and a positive experience. The one thing that I think that the classroom that I particularly saw really needed improvement on is all of the books that they had in the classroom. They didn't have really any related to economics or political science, civics, sociology, or anthropology. There wasn't really any books like that. There also wasn't books that represent students' home cultures and or a variety of home cultures, and there wasn't um, any books with like gay, lesbian, or transsexual main characters. So I thought that that was something that could be improved. If I were to be hired at that school, the first thing that I would improve was trying to get some additional resources in my classrooms. So more books that include a more diverse range of students and characters represented, and also a lot more nonfiction books because the teacher that I looked at, whose room I looked at, had like almost no nonfiction books. And I also would add more languages in the classroom. There wasn't any maps or flags of other countries or languages, and there also was no posters or any signs of a language besides English. So that is something that I would definitely talk to administrators about, or try and get funding somehow to add those resources to the classroom. For question number 3, what type of citizens I think the classroom that I was in was preparing those students to be. And I had a really hard time deciding between participatory citizens or justice-orientated citizens. And I think that it was a little bit of both, because the classroom that I was in did a really, really good job of having students look at the way different people around the world live, and the way different families are set up, how different education, how kids around the world have different education. For example, they watched numerous videos in the classroom and had different teachers. The librarian in the school came in, and they watched videos and had discussions about they were shown numerous different houses around the world and different students in schools and how they got to school. And for example, there was a child who had to walk 4 hours to school, and had to walk through like military raids and just trash and all of these different really sad living conditions. And they also showed different beds that kids have around the world, and just how some kids in different countries have to sleep on the floor, or don't have a bed, or sleep on there was an example of a child who slept on a tire. And then the librarians who were helping in this classroom today had a discussion with the students on how this made them feel, and then they were given some suggestions or ideas on how they could fix these types of issues. And most of the ideas given to them were volunteering or donating money to these different organizations that are out there. And but not only did they just talk about issues going on in the world, they related it back to the fact that there are students in the town of the school that I was in, and they explaining that there are people in our town who also live like this, and it's not just people throughout the world. So I thought that they did a really good job of making students see the inequality, and making students see kind of the injusticeness of the world that we live in. And the school also really promoted making their own school a safe environment, and no bullying or anything like that. And so I thought that this school and the classroom did a really good job of showing inequality and showing how justice is not fair for everyone. But I think so that would make the ideas justice orientated, but I thought that the suggestions and the tools that they gave them to fix those were a lot more participatory citizens, because it kind of showed them how to lead food drives and how to donate money to organizations and stuff. But they never really taught the students how to actually affect the systematic changes in the world, and didn't really teach about social movements or how they could create them or begin them. But there was a lot of examples given in the classroom on how of people who powerful people or people in history who have been part of social movements. So they kind of got that, but I would still probably say that overall the type of citizens that the classroom that I was in was trying to create was participatory citizens, even though they did kind of show justice-orientated citizens too. For question number 4 of what evidence I saw of the ongoing debates related to elementary social studies education, for the pedagogy part, some of the content of the instruction was direct instruction, but some of it was hands-on, active teaching through play and experiences. There was a lot of discussions and debates. The purpose that I would say of the classroom that I saw in the school that I saw was in a positive way, education that seeks to prepare kids to transform society. Um, I felt that the school did a really good job of building up the students and making them feel like they are the ones who can make a difference and they have the power to do things and not just assimilating them into the society and having them just see what it is but not showing them how to actually do anything about it. I felt for as far as content that the school did a really good job of making the social studies relevant to the children's life and multicultural, showing how other people around the world live and showing social issues and problems. Um, there wasn't really a lot of focus at all on like U.S. patriotism or anything like that. Even though they did learn a lot about historical events in history that may not be that relevant to the student's life because it was an ancient Rome class. They did talk about a lot of that kind of stuff, but they also related a lot back to like the U.S. and their own hometown. I did see uses of history throughout the subjects. So it was organized in a way where they were interdependent subjects, and I know a lot of the curriculum that the school that I was in used had like social studies tied with language arts and reading. Um, I think the school had a good amount of control over what they got to talk about, but I also think because they did have to use required textbooks and stuff, that took away from that a little bit. And I know that they did have standardized tests in as a form of assessment in the classroom, but there also were a lot of other types of assessment. But I would say the most common was just a pencil paper test of memorization in the class. So that was probably, besides the assessment of just being tests and the lack of books that were more represented of wide variety of students, I would say that those were definitely the weak parts of the social studies at my school. But otherwise, I thought that overall it was a really good experience to see that this school was doing a lot of the things that we talked about in our class and in 443, which was really encouraging.